Welcome back to Ozarks Fox. We continue our conversation tonight on the Amazon fires and why it's relevant to all of us, regardless of where you live. This week, new reports show that about 2,000 new fires have started in the Amazon, despite the Brazilian government's ban on burning in the forest. We are learning more about this topic with Dr. Kevin Jansen, Associate Professor of Biology at Drury University. Dr. Jansen, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So I wanted to start by talking about, there are so many fires in the Amazon right now, but when we think about the Amazon, we know it's humid, we know it's wet, it's a rainforest after all. How and why do these fires keep burning?
Fires are normal for the rainforest during the dry season. They'll typically be small scale and not have widespread repercussions. The fires that are being set right now, mostly by humans, are set purposefully to get rid of forests, to open it up for cattle grazing and for row crops in some small cases. That process is exacerbating the loss of the rainforest.
So small scale is normal. It's just the amount that we're seeing right now that is not normal?
Correct. Small scale fires, because of that humidity, because of the moisture in the vegetation, limits the size of fires normally. And typically, small scale fires will actually enhance biodiversity because it'll make more different places to live for the organisms that live there.
But at the scale that we're seeing right now, it's going to have the opposite effect.
It is. It's not sustainable. Once large fires go through, hot fires go through, it makes it very difficult for seeds to come up. And then if it's actively managed after that for pasture or row crops, then the forest simply won't come back. The soils are too thin there. So
if we lose part of the Amazon, or depending how bad it is, you think it's not something that can be fixed, that it won't come back?
Typically, rainforests that lose the species diversity that they have there in general especially in that Amazon basin, will become more like savannas, even have the potential to become deserts if they're not managed properly, because the rainforest creates its own rain system. And so as we begin to lose more rainforest, it sort of stops the rainfall pattern in that area.
Wow, is that a concern right now? Are we to that point?
We've lost about 17% of the Amazon rainforest so far, and some estimates by some decent models that are out there suggest that at around 20 to 22% loss, it could become irreversible for the rainforest.
Oh, wow. But those 17% you mentioned, the 22%, that's not just right now because of these fires in the last year or so?
No, 17% is historical.
Wow.
But we are losing the equivalent of about 3,100 square miles every year now. That's about 5 of our surrounding counties right here in the Springfield area. So if you can think of Greene, Webster, Stone, Taney counties, sort of 5 counties around us combined, we're losing that much rainforest every year right now, which is just in the Amazon, which is a considerable amount of land.
And why should we be concerned about that here in the Ozarks and everywhere else around the world?
Right. The rainforests, some people suggest that they serve to produce oxygen that helps the rest of the world. That's actually a misunderstanding of the system. Most of that oxygen returns to the organisms in the area. Most of the trees and other vascular plants there take over half of that back to respire themselves, and the other half is usually gone by decomposers, bacteria, and things like that. The primary issue is have a bunch of indigenous individuals there who are losing their home, plus you have about over 10% of all species on Earth live in the Amazon basin, which makes up about 1% of the land in the world. So it's disproportionately important to the biodiversity of the world. If you honor life, if you like to think of life as something that evolved over millions of years or was created, whatever your belief is, you have to sort of recognize that honoring those species is something that's important to us.
We have heard over the past few weeks, as we have seen coverage of the Amazon, that the Amazon is the lungs of the earth and produces 30% and all of that. So none of that is correct. Saying the Amazon is the lungs of the earth, is that
correct? It is a misunderstanding. I've seen 20% before, but almost 100% of the oxygen that's produced in the Amazon rainforest is used by the Amazon rainforest. Most of the oxygen we have, the 21% in the atmosphere, comes from long sort of geological cycles, and most of that oxygen originally came from photosynthetic single-celled organisms in the ocean. that still work today.
You mentioned briefly the indigenous people living in the Amazon. I think that is one part of the conversation that we haven't really heard, at least in the mainstream media, about why this is so important. How much can you expand on that?
That's outside my specialty. I know there are hundreds of remaining indigenous tribes in the Amazon basin, Amazonia proper, and a lot of the clear cutting that has occurred either through fires or just through active logging for agricultural purposes, some of that comes right up to the boundary of some of the protected areas for some of those people. So if you can imagine an indigenous tribe child walking in their area that they know to be home, and then all of a sudden they hit the wall of forest and look out, right? It has to be fairly depressing for those individuals to see that, and the forest simply doesn't return well, as we talked before, in that area because of the poor soils. I think the Amazon basin is an amazing place, obviously. It is a large percentage of the world's rainforest. We are still discovering new species, about one every other day. And a lot of people think that we already know everything that's out there. We are literally still discovering these species at a fairly high rate. Some of these are large animals, others are plants and fungi and bacteria, but that is a huge resource for all future generations, and for us to remove that for short-term monetary gain is easy for me to say we shouldn't do it, but those individuals that live in that area should have the final say as to how they protect their own country.
Dr. Jansen, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
We'll have more right after this break right here on Ozarks Fox.